Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Paul Brown Show. This evening, my guest returning back to the show is Ms. Roberta Dunn. She's the chair of the LGBT Community Center. How you doing there, Dunn?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me back again.
Thank you for coming on the show. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in the LGBT community.
It's been a phenomenal year for the LGBT community. A lot of things have changed over the past few years. Politically, things have changed. We had Amendment 1, which went against us, saying that only a man and woman can be recognized by the state, and that was very painful and hurtful to a lot of the LGBT community. Then the government did away with DOMA, which is a law that prevented people from getting the same benefits that you have as a married person and someone else, tax benefits, health care benefits, all those things. And the Supreme Court ruled that unconstitutional. Okay. And that threw everything into a new pot, because now we have state laws that say a marriage can only be between a man and a woman. Correct. And you have federal laws that say no, you can have same-sex marriage. So what happens when a person who is from North Carolina goes to Washington, D.C. or Massachusetts or any state that recognizes it, gets married? How is the federal government going to deal with that? And the initial thing was, well, they'll leave that to the state, but then the federal government stepped up again and made changes to the IRS law that says, we don't care where you live, if you're married and legally married in a state or another country that we recognize, the United States recognizes, you will get the full benefits of being a man and woman on your tax privileges and your IRS. And then health care changes with Secretary Sebelius came in and made changes. So it really made it a lot better for a lot of people. There's a lot of questions out there. Some would say, well, Roberta, I'm transgender. And when I got married, I was a male who married my wife. Now, what's going to happen? How is the state going to deal with that? I have a legal, and I had to go to the IRS and Social Security and reprove my marriage to them so they could change my markers and other things. So things are getting a heck of a lot better, but it's still pretty gosh darn confusing at times. For me who lives in this world to understand it is one thing, but for the outside world to hear these things. And it's not we're not looking for anything different or anything special. We just want the same rights and recognition as every person that should be in America, having the same rights as everyone else. Nothing special, nothing more, nothing less, just equality. And someday we'll have that, but we're getting a heck of a lot closer to it now, so thank you.
Roberta, I know you do a lot for the community, but a lot of the audience may not know who you are. So give us you won a lot of awards and all that. Tell the audience about yourself.
Well, thank you, Paul. I'm flattered by that. I'm just a regular person like you.
Correct.
And since I was 5 years old, I knew that something was special about me. The way I identified as a male, but inside me, I felt as a female. But I'm almost 70 now. So you go do the numbers backwards, and you couldn't come out and do those things back in the 40s or 50s. You did not come out. No one would have understood what was going on. So I suppressed it all my life and was married, had 3 children, but marriage didn't work out. 14 very good years and then 3 difficult years, and we agreed to separate and divorce. And then several years later, I met another person, and is my current wife. And we've been married 29 years, and it's close to 30 years we've been together. We have a child together, so now we have 4. And that's good. I came out to my family, my wife, after being married for 10 years. And she was very accepting. We're Christians, and a lot of people get confused of how can I be part of the LGBT community and a Christian. Well, that's easy. The Lord said, Roberta, you're one of mine, and you don't have a choice, really, and I'm happy for that. So that's very good. We talked about it, and we read the Bible, and we said we don't see anything that's an issue for us. And as long as our marriage is sacred to us, the same vows we took in the beginning, I love her, she loves me, and that's the way life is, and we accept it. So that was good. I worked as a salesperson selling to the federal government. And so I couldn't come out at work because of security clearances and other reasons. There was still a lot of discrimination in that area. So when I retired 9 years ago, we moved here, settled down in the Charlotte area, and a couple of years later, I started getting involved in the LGBT community. And things have changed a lot since then.
Correct. How does it feel to be such a big voice in the LGBT community? I mean, because you do a lot, you're out there advocating for a lot of the changes that the community you're looking for. How does it feel?
Well, I still see myself as the same person that I was before anyone knew me. I guess things do change. I am recognized. The newspapers and the television and the radio programs here in Charlotte and the surrounding area recognize my sincerity in talking about the issues that were out there. It was difficult at first because, I didn't want to be out and out by everyone. I wanted to still live my private life and be who I am and be dedicated to my family because I'm a family person. I have 4 children and now I have 5 grandchildren, just added 2 more the last month. And they were preemies, they're twins, a little boy and a little girl. And then I have great-grandchildren, and that's what's important to me. My God, my country, my family, and that was important. But I saw this need, I saw this discrimination when I was out there. And I had concerns about it. Here I am, I'm in the Bible Belt in Charlotte, and how is this going to accept a transgender person here? How does it accept LGBT people here? How does it accept gays and lesbians? And the first time I went out, I was at an event. It was at the Belk Center, and it was between a local pastor and the head of the faith organization for the HRC, and they were talking. And the pastor got up, and the first thing he said is, transgender people are an abomination. And I'm sitting in the audience saying, whoa, what am I doing here in Charlotte? This was like, wow. And then he said, and if it's not a sickness, why do they call it gender identity disorder? And I said, what am I going to do about this? Am I just going to go home and pout or do something? So I got involved with the local organizations I was with, and I asked them, it was then Kappa Beta and another one, the Charlotte Gender Alliance. And I said, what rights do transgender people have here in Charlotte? Am I going to get, we've heard the expression, driving while black, and the discrimination African Americans have with the police department across the country. Now, what level is discrimination? Is there driving while wearing women's clothes for a cross-dresser or a transgender person? What are the police going to do if they pull me over and pull other people over before you were able to change your driver's license, to have your reassignment surgery, or be on hormones long enough to be recognized for who you really are? What is going to happen when they pull you over? And no one knew. And one of the people at the center says, well, we got to reach out and do things. So I went home that night and I said, we have to reach out. Oh, that means me. I have to reach out. So I got on the phone and I called the local police department, the headquarters of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, and I asked them some questions. A, I'm a transgender person. What happens if you pull me over and my driver's license at that time said Robert, not Roberta? Okay. What happens when you pull me over and that's not there? Do I get arrested? What happens if I am in a restaurant and I use the ladies' room because that's where I belong? Do I get arrested? And no one knew. They did not know. They said, go to the police attorney's office because the attorneys, the lawyers for the police department, tell us how to follow the laws that are out there and what to do. And I asked them the same questions, and they did not have an answer either. They said, we'll have to get back with you. And they researched this and found out that there is no laws against that. Right. But, and that's always a great word, but if you're at a restaurant and someone complains, don't argue with the police if they come. Take your summons and it'll be thrown out in court. Now wait a second. I'm doing nothing wrong, but I go to court. I have to go to court to have it thrown out. I said, what happens if I say it's not against the law? They says, well, depending on the police officer, you may end up in jail. I says, what happens if I go to jail? They said, call the sheriff's department. So I called the sheriff's department. And they says, well, if you have not had gender reassignment surgery, then you'll go into the general male population with the criminals. Now these are the drunks, the robbers, the murderers, the whatever. Now do I belong with the general population of men who are drunk or on drugs or whatever overnight waiting for an arraignment? No, it's an unsafe place for me. So they said, well, you should be able to, and you can ask for private protection. Just like if a police officer gets arrested, they put them in a secure area because it would be unsafe for them with the criminals. So you can ask for that. I said, well, why isn't that just given? So that's what got me started.
With all that you do, what keeps you so active?
It's a passion in me. I really, sometimes I get up and I'm saying, oh God, again, what's going on today? And there's always issues. There's always a drama. There's always an issue. And it's just my passion for people. I see discrimination, and no one should be, we shouldn't have to have laws protecting LGBT people. We shouldn't have to have laws protecting minorities, African Americans and other Hispanics, Asian Americans, whatever. The Declaration of Independence says all men, people are created equal. So why do we need these laws? Because people are bad. There's a lot of bad people out there, and they hide behind the Bible and other things, and they attack us. So until that changes, there has to be people out there that are willing to take the fight on, take the crusade on, go to the mainstream public and say, this is who I am. I'm just a regular person. I go to church, I read the Bible, I'm a Christian, I'm a parent. What more can you do? So why shouldn't everything just be the same way?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate how the LGBT are treated in Charlotte?
There's been a big change here. Since I've been here, like at that Belk debate, and where things are, when I was walking out with a friend of mine, a transgender person. She has since passed away, Pam Jones. And we were at Trade and Tryon, and she told me 10 years before this that a transgender person was beaten to a pulp right at that intersection because she was a transgender person, and there was no protection, no rights for her. I mean, could you imagine that? Now that's 19, it was about 17 years ago. And transgender people get murdered. We've had 2 transgender people murdered since I've been here. And the case was never solved. They're both open cases. They don't care what happened. I had to go in and meet with Rodney Monroe, the chief of police, when one trans person was murdered because of the way they kept calling her him. And he lived an alternate lifestyle where once she graduated from high school, she lived as a full-time woman for the rest of her life until she was murdered. So why that disrespect for that person? It was sad. This past year, 2 friends of mine, 2 transgender friends of mine, one a young student at UNC Charlotte, engineering student, brilliant, wonderful person, good, happy personality, took her life. Took her own life, 21 years old, took her life. Because people would say, you're a freak of nature. Her family, her church. And then a week later, I'm the chair of the Carolina Transgender Society, and one of my members also took her life. So I had 2 transgender friends within 1 week take their lives. How can you not be passionate and continue to reach out to everyone else and say, we're just folk, we're just people. I don't mean anyone